Rick Spielman worked as a general manager for the Minnesota Vikings for 16 years in the front office, 10 as a general manager. So, I was saying this is as when you're in any business, Rick, when you make a mistake, sometimes you have to just go, hey, I got to own it. I mean, Bill Polian told me years ago, I'm not going to name the player, but they missed on an offensive lineman. And he goes, I knew in OTAs I missed. And he said, we moved off it really quick. And I look at Jordan Love, and I remember talking to a GM before the draft, Rick, and you scouted him, I'm sure. And the GM who I respect, he's a playoff GM, said, I think he's wild. I don't think he'll ever be a great mechanical thrower. I have my issues. Do you think in the room in Green Bay now they're kind of acknowledging we may have missed on this one?
Well, I don't know. When you look at what LeFleur says about him in the press, they're talking about how well he's doing, how much progress he has made since he's gotten there. The third year of these young quarterbacks is when you really determine whether they're going to be a player in the NFL or not. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I do know that they're going to go with him as their backup this year. And it will be telling, because if Aaron Rodgers decides to retire after this season, does the Green Bay Packers give the keys to Jordan Love, or do they go and start over from scratch? So it's hard to kind of decipher where everything is at with him. You can see the reps that he gets in the preseason. There's been some good, some bad. Has he improved from what he did last year and even his rookie year? I would say he has, but to say that, yeah, I'm ready to give this guy the keys to the car once Aaron Rodgers is done, I don't know if they feel that strongly about that. And I would personally have some questions on it just from what I've seen from the outside.
Take me inside the room. You signed that Kirk Cousins deal. It took some courage. He was a fourth-round pick, and you said, we're going with it. Sometimes with quarterbacks, you have to just say, we're going for it. And I look at Kenny Pickett, and I think to myself, Rick, he started 4 years in college in that stadium, kind of with that offense. It's a pro offense. Boy, oh boy, if he's not ready now, I don't know. I think you got to rip the Band-Aid off him. It's not like he had 1 year of college starts. You're asking him to play it in 3,000 miles from home. He should be really comfortable in Pittsburgh. Is this a rip the Band-Aid off and let it rip for him moment?
Yeah, it was funny listening to Mike Tomlin, and he said, well, let's see what he does against the varsity this week, because his first preseason game against Seattle, he was playing against guys that are probably not going to be on their team, but it was encouraging to watch him and take them down for a game-winning touchdown in the fourth quarter. What you've seen this week is, I think I counted, he had a total of 42 snaps this preseason. This past week here against Jacksonville, who I believe has a very underrated defense, and it was supposedly against their varsity. He took him down in that 2-minute drive on 10 plays. Actually, he threw 2 touchdowns. One did not count because of a penalty. But the thing that impressed me the most when I watched the tape on him is you see him get ready to get hit in the pocket, and that ball is coming out of his hands. He had poise. He was decisive in his decisions, and he was very accurate. The ball was coming out of his hands before the receiver was even getting out of the break.
Yeah.
So you ask yourself, are we ready to just rip the Band-Aid off and go? I looked through the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you know who the only rookie quarterback to start week 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who that was? It was Terry Bradshaw. Even when Ben Roethlisberger came in, Tommy Maddox started, I think, the first couple games of Ben Roethlisberger's rookie year. So it's just a matter of time before this kid takes over the reins. It's just how comfortable does Mike Tomlin feel about giving it to him in week 1?
So Cleveland has got some cap space if they wanted to move to Garoppolo. I think I always thought Jacoby Brissett was capable, but he's about a 60% completion guy. He's a hard worker. You'd love to have him as your backup. He's a good guy. Everybody likes him. But I think there's some limitations on accuracy and on playmaking. Garoppolo's sitting out there. We know he's a good guy in the room. We know he's a guy's guy. Niner players loved him. He's not going to throw it outside, which Cleveland did not have a great receiving core. But between the numbers, he's pretty darn good, Rick. Do you punt on the season? What would you do? Would you give Jimmy G a run or just stay with Brissett?
Well, first of all, you got to look at how much money you have tied up in the quarterback position. Okay, I think, and I read Peter King's article today, I think with the suspension and the fine that Deshaun Watson's going to get in cash, and I'm not talking about cap, he's still going to make about $40 million this year. Then you look at what they did with Baker Mayfield. When they traded him to Carolina, they also had to sign a check for $10.5 million to cover that cost. So if you go get Jimmy G, who I believe is scheduled to make around $25 million or a hair more, that's another $25 million into that position.
Yeah.
The other thing you don't know is he hasn't been practicing, although he's working out on the side. But how healthy is that shoulder that he dealt with last offseason? I know he had surgery. 2, are you going to tie that much money up into the position? And 3, what's the draft compensation going to be? Is it going to be a Baker Mayfield type draft compensation? And the other thing, does Jimmy G even want to come in there and just be I would say, take over for just 11 games and just keep the seat warm until Deshaun Watson comes back? So would he even want to go to Cleveland, or would Jimmy G force his hand to make San Francisco make the decision on whether they cut him or not? And then he will have whatever team and a pick of a team that he wants to go to.
So you work with the Dolphins. You were the vice president of player personnel for a while, and this is an interesting decision. So next year, there's going to be about 6 guys in the draft, first-round quarterbacks. It's considered a very strong college quarterback draft. And generationally now, these guys that come out of college, they got a lot of reps. They're ready to play. Most of these guys are kind of closer to ready to play. And so I think Tua, with an offensive coach, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Cedric Wilson, Mike Gesicki, and now a legit left tackle, I think Tua's going to have a good year. I think they're going to make the playoffs. Be that as it may. When you're a general manager, you have to figure out, is he carrying the team or are we carrying him? And, that's the Dak thing. So now if Tyron Smith is hurt and Amari's gone, well, Josh Allen would be fine. I'll pay him $40 million. Can Dak carry a backup left tackle, a suboptimal, receiving group? So my takeaway on Tua is he's actually going to be pretty good, but it's not going to change that he's small, not wildly athletic, and not a big arm, deep ball thrower. If you ran that team, it's a little bit of a dilemma because he's going to be better, but it's a dilemma. What would you be looking for as a GM thinking, okay, he's not just carrying us. He's carrying us. We're not just carrying him.
Yeah, no, I was actually down at Miami's practice last week. Got an opportunity to watch him in practice. I watched the game this week because I'll be down there when they go ahead and work against Philly. And not to change the subject, but they're saying a little bit the same thing about Jalen Hurts. So it'll be interesting to see how these two guys perform against each other and against the defenses next week when they have a joint practice. But watching Tua there, I think Mike McDaniel is going to do a lot of things that fit his strengths.
Yeah.
Similar to what he did with Jimmy G when he was out in San Francisco. So just watching him in practice, they had a no huddle, 2-minute drill at the end of practice when I was down there. Again, it was against the number 2 defense, but the play action, the getting the ball out quick, he showed accuracy. He's got a lot of playmakers around him. If he can get the ball in those guys' hands, they're going to make a lot of plays. Where my biggest concern with Tua is his deep ball accuracy. I think he's only had 1 touchdown of a ball thrown 30 yards in the air or more, and I think he's 1 touchdown and 7 interceptions on any pass thrown more than 10 yards down the field. My biggest concern with Miami right now, just watching it, is not so much Tua, it's that offensive line, because if they can't establish the running game, Tua, I don't believe, is a quarterback that is going to just carry a team like an Aaron Rodgers or something. He has to have a lot of weapons around him, which Chris Greer and I thought the front office did a great job putting a bunch of offensive weapons around him. But the offensive line is going to have to play a lot better than what we've seen in these first 2 preseason games.
Finally, I don't even know. I think about I'm Baltimore, and Lamar's using his mom. And I think that'd be such a weird conversation. I mean, she doesn't have I think most agents either have like Drew Rosenhaus has a law degree, or they've had a million clients. There's a certain protocol when you negotiate. The agent gets on the phone, and there's, like if my mom called for me to negotiate with my bosses at Fox, I don't know where she'd start. And so I think to myself, what an odd place for a general manager to be, because you don't want to be patronizing. You want to be respectful. But there's a reason these agents, 5 or 6 of them have all the players. Do you think this is an uncomfortable spot for the Ravens?
Would your mom say, don't say that about my baby when she's trying to get a contract done for you?
Exactly. It's weird.
Yeah, this is a unique situation. And most of the time, these negotiations are going to come down to the 11th hour, which is going to be right before the regular season starts. I don't think we'll see Lamar in the preseason at all. The thing that is different is that most of the time when you're in the front office, you're probably 24/7 going back and forth with his representative or whatever agent is representing him.
Right.
And you're having phone calls at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning, just trying to get to a resolution. In Lamar's situation, that's hard to do because he has to practice. He has to be in meetings. He has to really focus, on his body, getting in a cold tub, lifting weights, everything he has to do to get ready for the season. So it's not the same as just calling up a Drew Rosenhaus or any other agent at 10 o'clock at night. Hey, let's keep working on this deal to try to come up with a resolution. I think if Lamar does not take a contract extension, and it sounds like they are north of Kyle Murray right now, I expected it to be around the $50 million range, right below Aaron Rodgers. But I don't think that they'll go and give him the fully guaranteed contract that Deshaun Watson got. That was a whole separate, unique situation. And if I was explaining it to an agent, I would say that is something totally different. He was that was a trade. We gave up a lot of draft capital for him. And the only way he was going to come to Cleveland is we just went way over and did things that we normally wouldn't do to get him here to Cleveland, because I don't think Cleveland was the front runner at the time for Deshaun Watson. But Lamar is taking a very significant risk, because if he does play on his current contract and he gets injured, I would hope to heck that he went out and got a significant Lloyd's of London policy, because God forbid if it was a career-ending injury, he just left a lot of money on the table.
Yeah, it's just different. I mean, if I was representing my son or my daughter, I don't want to hear you. I'm saying that's nothing against Lamar's mom. But as a parent, I know how I view my kids. I have no ability to be objective about my kids, and I would be offended if you're telling me it's really, to me, it's really unique.
Yeah, and those negotiations, not that you want to poke holes in your guy, but you're saying this is why we're not going to do that, and this is the reasons why. Because, his style of play, he puts the club at risk because he may get injured because of how he runs the ball, which is one of the best traits. My question would be, in 5 or 6 years from now, when he doesn't have that same athletic ability, is he going to be a quarterback as effective as he is now, if he's just going to have to turn into more of a pocket-type passer? So those are things that you're going back and forth with an agent on, and you're trying to poke holes in why they want what they want. They're poking holes in you while you're saying what you're saying, but that's usually kept confidential, which is kept aside from, the player.
That's right.
Because you can get a lot of hurt feelings if you're trying to do something yourself, and then all of a sudden, this is what they really think of me. Yeah. Well, screw them. I'll just go on and play for someone else who really values me.
Yeah, I did one of my own negotiations when I started, and I found out very quickly I did not enjoy hearing what I wasn't. I didn't like it at all.
They should have called your mom.
I mean, it's unique. If she can pull it off, good for her. Rick Spielman, great seeing you as always. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd, or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.